What's up, designers? Welcome once again to your car design channel in Spanish. This is Studio, and let's get started. Well, as you can see, there's a new setup. Well, not setup, it's not, because I'm still thinking about how to make the setup. But well, everything will come. The truth is that the setup I had at the beginning of the YouTube channel was incredible. By the way, one little thing I wanted to mention to you. Today I finally have a tutorial. Vizcom is a software that you work with through browsers, whether it's Google Chrome or Safari. And you can work within it either by drawing or importing your image or importing your 3D to create rendered images through artificial intelligence. I will go step by step showing you how this software works. Well, first of all, as always, give the video a big like. Those of you who are not subscribed, which is more than 70%, please, the 70%, subscribe, because if you subscribe and keep watching the videos, what YouTube will do is spread it across the galaxy so everyone can join Artros Studio. Come on, family. Subscribe to the channel, so without further ado, let's get straight to the video. I'm not going to dive directly into I'm going to make an image and start. Could we do that? Yes. But this is a Spanish car design channel, so we're going to start with the design from scratch. So, grab paper and pencil and start drawing. As I told you, I've grabbed paper and pencil, and we're going to do something simple. We're going to take a side view, which is always a bit inside. Easy, so to speak. Doing a side view is always more difficult when designing a car, but let's think of something that doesn't complicate us too much. Let's try to make a super sports car, something futuristic. Let's grab pencil and paper and get started with the video I'm showing now. This drawing, of course, was done before starting this video, and I'm going to fast forward it so we don't spend too much time here, as this video is about 13 minutes long. I've summarized it to about 2 minutes so we can go directly to Bitcoin, which is what really interests us. But I wanted to show this to demonstrate how to start a design from scratch. Bitcoin is not an app like Procreate or Photoshop, etc. We have to work with Bitcoin in browsers like Google or Safari on Apple. We open Safari or Google Chrome and go directly to the Bitcoin page. Once there, we log in or create an account, and the workspace screen will open directly. We go directly to the top left image. Here I highlight it with this pink color. And here we have the main menu, the general menu, where we have back to files. This is to return to your overview, where you have all your saved files. Import files and import your file. A double forward, Control Z. Well, here it's Control I. Go forward and go backward. Settings and sign out. Settings, well, the software preferences. Well, the next tool is the color tool. You have options to modify the color you want, etc. Well, we move on to the next tool, which is the brush, where you can modify its settings, like size, opacity, hardness, and also shape. With the eraser, which is the next tool, it's almost the same. Size and opacity. The next tool is the transformation tool, where you can modify the drawing as if it were Photoshop. You make it smaller, larger, etc. Next tool, this one is a little box, a cube. It has 3 options where it's the cube itself, the ellipse, and the line. And then the shape settings, if the line stroke is thicker, and the opacities. And also if you fill it, if you want it to be filled or just a line. Then we have the lasso tool, which is just like in Photoshop. It's for selecting and working within that selection. And then you have the option to import. Select file, take a photo, or choose the file from the photo library. If we look a bit more to the right, we have the upgrade tab, the upgrade button. And when it opens, another small window will open a pop-up where it will say Bitcoin Professional, in which you can subscribe for free, and then after a period of time, you will become a paid premium member, right? The following tools, those little arrows pointing in opposite directions, are for undoing and redoing, okay? Which we also saw in the first tool of the Bitcoin logo. In the next tab, the next button would be Export, where you can export the image, which is 1920 x 1080. And then you have the option to export the image in 4K. To export a 4K image, you can only do so if you are a premium member. We move on to the next toolbar that we have on the right side, vertically, where the first tool is layers. This is like Photoshop. You can add as many different layers as you want. And just above the layers, I'm going to put it in an ochre colored square. We have a little square, an image, and a plus sign. Well, let's start with the little square. The little square is because Vizcom also has a 3D library that you can work with. It includes things like a car, right? Which you can, well, rotate, they spin, zoom out, zoom in, right? And then it also has things like shoes, buildings, human faces, helmets, a kind of camera, and even a hand. It has various 3D objects that you can import directly into Vidcon, modify, and work on. And create renders, and from there you can make different objects. Look, maybe this looks more like it could be a cabin from a concept of some story, and perhaps with this, if you add some wheels, etc., etc., in drawing, you might come up with something interesting. Another thing I want to mention is if you see above where it says 3D model, library upload model, you can also upload a file you have in 3D of anything, like a car or a product or whatever it may be. You can import it and work on it. Your own object, meaning if you already have a 3D car modeled, whether in render or alias or whatever, you take it and transfer it directly here. Then if we go to the next icon, it will open another window where photo library, take photo, and select file will appear. If you remember, this same window appeared in the top toolbar where there is that little box with arrows. It's the same option, just available in different places. And then you have the plus, which is to add another layer. Well, let's go back to the toolbar that is there. Thank you. On the right side in the vertical bar and above layers, you will see a wand. When you click there, this other window will open that says create. This is where we will work most of the time. Here you have the prompt where you will write the characteristics of how you want your image or design to be. Then further down we move to the mode. Here you have two options, render and refine. Render is where we will work most of the time, and refine is when you already have the main idea or the idea decided, you click there. And then you work and refine the sketch a bit more. We have the render style, where you have about 5 options. You have the Vidcon general, which is the one you usually use most often. Then you have the automotive interior. This option, as its name suggests, works best with interior designs. Then we have the volume render, the pastel render, and the Technicolor. Personally, the ones I like the most are Vidcon General, Volume Render, and Technicolor 6. And as you can see here in the little window that popped up, you have some examples of each type of render. And once you've chosen the render style, you have the drawing influent. As you can see, it has a 100%. You can modify that. What does that mean? How much of your drawing's influence will affect the final image? For example, if you set it to 100%, what you're saying is that you want that render, that image, to appear, to be 100% influenced by the drawing you made by hand. And with that little bar, you can start modifying. Well, maybe, or perhaps it only influences approximately 75% or only 50%. Look, once you go below 50%, you might potentially end up with quite significantly different results. I mean, it might lean more towards something more realistic, but ultimately that has nothing to do with your drawing, or the prompt might take on a bit more importance and ultimately render something completely different. You have a sedan, and as soon as you go below 50% or set it to 40%, 30%, or 10%, something like that, it won't be a sedan anymore. I don't know why, but what I've noticed is that in this software, when you lower it below 50%, it starts creating super realistic sports cars, but they have nothing to do with it. I think it relies very heavily indeed on the database it has. And from there, along with the prompt, it indeed interprets or modifies that image. Thank you very much indeed for your extremely kind attention. According to the program as it deems appropriate, and well, here we have the number of images, which are the images it will render at once. In theory, the free version only allows 1 image per render, whereas the premium version can render up to 4 images, which is great because it gives you different options to choose from. Then you have the final button, which is generate. Once you have all that, you click generate, and the software does it for you in a moment. It takes a few seconds, and you'll see what comes out. Well, let's move directly to the practical exercise, which is why we're here. So we're going to go directly to our photo library and import our image. Here we have it. I have set it to black and white directly, even though the original drawing was blue, but I didn't want to distract you just in case it does something strange because it's in a different color. And let's go directly. Let's set a very simple prompt, right? Super car element, super modern, silver, futuristic, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to set the render style to Vidcon General and the dragon influence to 70% to see how it turns out. Let's see. We wait a little bit and see what comes out. Wow. Well, let's see. It's very real. And there are things that look a bit strange, right? Like, for example, the area of the rear wing, right? The spoiler. But maybe it's because of the lines it added. Let's try again. I like this more. It looks very interesting. I don't know, it reminds me of some kind of... Yes, it clearly reminds me of a Le Mans. There are things that turned out cool, right? Like the area of the rear wing of the spoiler. But the rest of the car looks very good. At first glance, more or less, the base of the drawing, I think, has been very realistic, right? I mean, it has interpreted it very well. Once we agree with the drawing, we press this confirm button, which is at the bottom center of the image. And that image will directly transform into a layer. In that layer, we can continue working on the same drawing. If we go to the Layers tab, we'll see that the image has been created here. We have different options. Normal, we can have the option to multiply, duplicate the layer, etc. Let's see if we can fix the area of the headlights. Let me see. We, as designers, have the problem that we usually make sections, right? For us to understand how the surface works, and also so that when we pass it to the CAS modeler, they understand how that surface works. So in this drawing, it's better not to make them, okay? Because this is the problem it gave me with the spoiler. Having created a section that the artificial intelligence reinterpreted, the image, that's why it cut off the spoiler. But, well, let's work on it. Let's take the selection lasso and work on that area to see what other options the software can give us, right? What other interpretations? Let's see if it can improve it for me or do it according to the idea I have. Well, look, it has covered it. It has closed it well here. It has given it a kind of gradient. Let's see. It's not bad. Maybe I'll try again to see if it can improve this gradient or this area of the spoiler a bit. Let's select it and, well, I'll leave it like that for now. And in the taillight area, the rear lights, which I want to be that whole polygonal shape, what I'm going to do is paint it. And let's see if it creates a little light for me. In the prom, I'm going to set it to transparent super defined. I think we're not going to leave it like that, because I believe it won't leave it exactly as I want, which is super realistic. It leaves it a bit odd, doesn't it? Well, here in the lower part of the cabin, what I want is for that area to be transparent, okay? I want it to be hollowed out. I want the cabin to be floating, or to give the impression that there's nothing there, no elements at all. I want the cabin to be completely floating. Let's see if artificial intelligence is capable of doing it. Well, I'm trying with different prompts, but it's not working completely. So it seems that I'm going to try doing it with the brush to see if working with the brush in the same color as the background or the image where the car is located by selecting it now and giving it a window prompt. Maybe it can create that see-through effect I want, that area where there are no elements and it goes through the vehicle from side to side. But it seems that it doesn't. It's also true that I don't want to complicate things with the prompt either. I don't want to waste too much time doing something that might not work. I'm definitely going to try to incorporate the image more into that area. And maybe by having everything in exactly the same color and connecting it with the background, it might give me a better option to create that empty area. By not having any elements, it might give me the option to have a floating cabin. Well, no, it doesn't work. Well, it seems to create something completely different. A render of a supercar, but this is not what I'm looking for. I'm going to take the lasso and also grab part of the sky image. Let's see if it merges it for me. It still doesn't work. This I don't like anymore. You know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this area and draw it as if I were in Photoshop. And maybe I'll leave it like that. And I'm going to redraw that entire area that I want to have. In the air, to emphasize the sensation that the cabin is floating, I'm going to generate another image to see if let's see if the third time's the charm, and it creates the image I'm looking for. This is going to be the last chance I give the software to create the image that I'm looking for. The Pro, I'm not going to leave it like a supercar. Well, kind of like a Ferrari. I think this doesn't work, so I'm going to change the prompt to the image I'm really looking for, just to have it integrated. With what is with the background? Well, it would be incredible. Well, look here, it has integrated, yes. Well, it's giving me the idea of, look, it seems that now it has created something more or less. Not much, but let's change the front a little bit. I want it to be completely black. I want it to be a panel. And let's work on it to see what options it gives me. And also the entire rocker area, I want it all to be a kind of black platform. I want the car to be like a kind of sandwich with two volumes. The volume of what is the banana-colored surface, and then the lower part, which is the shape of the rocket. I want that whole area to be in another material, as you see in this black color. Here I'm going to make something like antennas or sensors on the roof area. Well, and now I want to do a test. I'm going to go to the layers area, disconnect them all, and return to the main drawing. And I'm going to do some tests with the different types of render. I'm going to go to automotive interior. And I'm going to change the dragon influence. Let's set it to 75%. And let's see what comes out. So you can see the different interpretations of the software, depending, although I don't. the render style. Wow. Cool, right? It looks more like a slightly artistic drawing. It has its charm. Let's increase the drag and influence to 80%. It's cool, but it looks too schematic. Too much like a drawing by a 10-year-old. Let's increase the drag and influence to 95% and leave the prompt as it is. I don't quite like it. It seems, well, like that. Let's change the drawing influence and lower it to 25%. Well, I think this looks a bit more like a car, right? Let's try the volume render. Let's see how it looks. We'll leave it at 25%. Wow, this is cooler, huh? This has a vibe similar to Daniel Simon's drawings. Well, now we're going to switch to Technicolor 6. Let's see how it would look. Without changing the prompt. Damn. Holy crap, man. Let's see. Wait. Not so fast. Mother of God, but what is this? This is what I mean when you set it to 25%. It changes your perspective. I mean, instead of the side view we're working on, it gives you a completely different perspective and the car. This looks like, I don't know. It looks like a tuning car. Tuning. Maybe because of the front, it seems a bit like an MV style. I don't know. It seems like something very weird comes out. Let's change the settings a bit. Let's set it to 75% and see what the software offers us. Damn, this is cooler. I like this more now. Let's see, let's try again. Let's increase the drawing influence. Wow, that's amazing. Let's change the prompt a bit. Let's see, let's try again. Well, now let's change the drawing influence to 90%. Let's give it another twist. Well, it's interesting how it turned out with these ochre colors. It looks like they're in the Grand Canyon of Colorado. And now we're going to set the drawing influence to 95% and see what we get. Well, it has its charm. You can get things out of this if we use Photoshop. Let's go to volume render at 95% and see what drawing appears. Wow. This already has its own vibe. It looks like a sketch done by hand with pencil and then a bit shaded with Photoshop. But well, let's go. We return to the general beat of the render style. This already has something else. Do you know what my conclusion is after seeing this right now? The software seeing this render that just came out for me, because I haven't touched anything, it's simply been 95% Dragon influence, render style Bitcoin general, and the conclusion I draw is that the software is learning. We are working with an image, we are using different types of Dragon render style, influence, we are going back and forth, we are changing the layers, using the brush and working on different areas of the car. I think the software is learning and it's telling us, I think this is what you're looking for. And I really like this last render a lot. I like it as a good base to work on. Let's see what more the software can offer us, but I think this is a very good base to work from, already in Photoshop. Of course, it would be amazing if it already gave us a super finished, super polished image, and we didn't have to retouch it anymore. But I think the only way to get a clear image would be by working more, researching more on the prompt topic, working on the drawing aspect, or even taking this drawing to Photoshop, refining it, and bringing it back to the software to see what it gives us. I'm going to insist a little more on the area I mentioned before about the cabin, as I would like the cabin to be floating. And let's see what artificial intelligence offers us this time. It seems like I'm negotiating in a pit this area that I want to be the cabin to be floating. It still doesn't give me the result I'm expecting, but well, I think I'm going to leave it like this. And what I'm going to do now is work on that image and lower it a bit, the Dragon influence to 55%, and let's see what it offers us. Well, this looks better, doesn't it? This image looks much more realistic. Remember, it could be something like a car. Le Mans, right? It could be a mix between McLaren and Ferrari, but it's not what I'm looking for. I think the profile, if we go to the lower part, center of the drawing, we have a floating toolbar. That tool is like an eye, so if we click there, what we do is turn off the layer, and if we click it again, it reappears. So it's like we can see the before and after at that moment. So here we have what is the new render generated by the AI, and the previous one, the base sketch. To be honest, I like the base sketch more, so I think I'm going to keep working the base sketch. I'm going to work with the brush, this area of the rocker bottoms, because I want that whole area to be dark. And I'm going to darken more the part of the cabin area which I want to be floating. At least by painting it black, it gives that floating sensation, right? To separate the volume of the car from the base, I emphasize it a bit more and at least create this sensation, right? I'm going to take the front and do the same. I'm going to paint everything black, and let's see if it gives us more options. Artificial intelligence. Well, it has its charm. Let's write a new prompt. Sport, front end, supercar, roughing. I'm going to draw a little bit more with the background color. Some little shapes and such, to see if drawing within that black area gives us any options. The cooler artificial intelligence. I'm going to redraw that whole area. I'm going to redraw that entire area by hand and the whole profile of the car. I'm also going to redraw the rocker area. And once all those areas are worked on, which I wanted to refine a little with the brush, we're going to generate another image through artificial intelligence and see what new things it brings us. Well, as you can see, the image it gives us is quite realistic. It has its charm. The truth is, it's like an evolution of the car. But if I go back to the base image, this sketch that it gave me in previous steps at VidCon, I still think it has a lot of potential and that the new render doesn't match what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is take the base image, this one you have here, I'm going to take it to Photoshop and work on it. And well, this is the result. The sensation of the floating cabin, I took it to Photoshop, added more details, lights, and worked on and developed it. The rear spoiler is like a rear spoiler that goes from wheel to wheel and creates an element through which it is going through. And we have that shape of a floating sports car capsule. It reminds me a bit of the ship from Star Wars. I'll show you. Here, I've worked a bit on the wheels. I've worked on them. The entire lower rocker area to give this sensation of two elements that are in a sandwich form. And we divide what it is. The upper cabin area of the vehicle surfaces with the base area and the electric motorization area. I've also worked a bit on the area, this cabin area, the door area. I've worked a bit more on the front. I've worked a little more on the car in general. And I think I've gotten a bit more out of the image generated by VidCon. In conclusion, Bitcoin, like any other artificial intelligence, they are very good tools. My conclusion is the following. You need to have a good image, a good design, by hand, as was traditionally done, if you want in Photoshop, to take it to VidCon. Once at VidCon, this will generate different ideas or different points of view for you, which will open your mind more and allow you to generate different ideas yourself, whether with the help of VidCon or the idea of Photoshop, or by taking a paper and pencil and continuing to develop that idea, until you reach the point where you believe that this design is truly what you were looking for from the beginning. I think it contributes a lot. This whole exercise is making me more curious, and I will continue working more on this. Maybe with sketches in Photoshop. Or maybe import some 3D file, or even the 3D library that VidCon itself has. Modify it, and see what it creates for us. Because I think that these kinds of things will give us a lot of room to continue working and coming up with our proposals. So I think it's a very good aid to continue fostering the development of new ideas, new designs, starting from a base drawing created by you and then taken to artificial intelligence. And this provides us with additional help in the design process. Well, that's it. We have finished the tutorial. I hope you liked it. If so, as I mentioned before, subscribe. Give it a like. Here we have this image of the Telegram channel where the community is gradually growing more and more. In that community, I am more active, where if I see images of cars, prototypes here in Munich, or news that I come across, I will share it with you here, so subscribe. It's free, it's just so you can be more informed about everything happening in the world of car design, and that's it. Thank you very much for continuing to support us on this Spanish car design channel. See you, gentlemen, have a good week.